If you've been following gaming news, even badly up to this point, you probably know that the next generation of gaming consoles is barreling towards us at full speed right now. Microsoft's Xbox Series X is clearly gearing up for a fight with a power advantage and a handful of newly acquired first-party studios. Nintendo is continuing to strike their own path with the Switch, and PC gaming is about as affordable and accessible as it's ever been. Given all of that, Sony definitely has their work cut out for them this time around, as they find themselves in a dramatically different landscape than the one they were in at the eve of the 8th generation, where most of their competition was mired in the consequences of their own mistakes. This time, that's not really happening. Everybody, more or less, seems to be on message and well prepared. To protect their lead long term, PlayStation needs to bring their A game even harder this time. Since Sony's biggest strength seems to be their ability to deliver a diverse, high-end array of experiences every year, they need to fend off Microsoft's attempt to take over that role, while also keeping the fun roster of early games balanced and diverse. Sony's ability to continue framing the conversation and setting the tone for the generation will largely be determined by the launch lineup. It's not the only factor at play, but it could absolutely make or break the first year or two of the generation. As such, here are some games that we think would make excellent launch titles for Sony's upcoming console. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Now, we already know that Ratchet & Clank is on the way with a brand new game, and that's very good news, but if there's any possibility that this game could be ready as a launch title, Sony needs to take it. While it's true that Sony has a fairly diverse set of games already confirmed as launch titles, the long-time mascot slot seems to be going unfilled as of now. With all the great titles poised to launch alongside the console, none of them really carry that torch for long-time PlayStation fans in a way that leads them to the next generation. You could say that the upcoming Spider-Man game sort of does that in a way, but that's only really effective for PS4 users. People who have been with PlayStation for many generations don't really have that familiar face to help usher them into the next era of PlayStation. There are lots of games that could do the job just as well as Ratchet & Clank, but in terms of being realistic, Ratchet is likely in the best position to do that for Sony and ensure that more long-term fans of PlayStation are as excited as possible to pick up the new console, especially considering that Microsoft has confirmed their biggest mascot, Master Chief, is returning in a brand new game on the new Xbox at launch. The lack of an important franchise and equal response from PlayStation could spell danger for them for gamers who like both ecosystems but are on the fence about deciding which one to get on launch day. Marvel's Avengers. While it's true we are supposed to be getting current-gen versions of Marvel's Avengers on September 5th, assuming it's not delayed of course, it is also true that many will likely be anticipating the next-gen version just as much, whether it's as an upgrade or they're just holding off for that version entirely. Since this is the case, having the PlayStation 5 version of the game ready to go would be huge for Sony if it's at all possible. Currently, the next-gen version of Marvel's Avengers is set for late 2020, but as we all know, that could mean just about anything. But what it doesn't mean, however, is that it's currently slated to be a launch title. If it was, they would probably just say that. Perhaps it still could though, but only time will tell on that one. Whatever Japan Studio has been working on. SIE Japan Studio has been more than happy to deliver excellent games for Sony, both big and small, for many years. From Ape Escape on the PS1, to Shadow of the Colossus on PS2, Gravity Rush on the Vita, Puppeteer on the PS3, Last Guardian on the PS4, and plenty of games in between, Japan Studio always seems to be cooking up great wildcard games for the PlayStation ecosystem. Admittedly, some of their games are certainly bigger hits than others, but that's the price you pay for taking risks as consistently as they do. Regardless, All of their games tend to do a great job of filling out the PlayStation catalog with interesting, creative endeavors that always seem to speak to a more eclectic taste in the community, if nothing else. Their games are important as they remind gamers that not everything has to be predictable and extremely expensive to be great. Since wrapping up Knack 2 in 2017, they have been fairly quiet, so odds are they've got something in the oven intended for PS5. Knowing them, whatever that game is, would likely round out the PS5 launch lineup nicely and could give the PS5 debut a nice bump from those of us who aren't particularly impressed with the current list of confirmed titles. A new Syphon Filter. This one might sound a little out of left field, but I would argue it's really not. People have been clamoring for a new Syphon Filter game for years, and don't really seem to mind it being a remake or a sequel, not only because Syphon Filter is objectively great, but also because there just seems to be a perfect opening for it. With Metal Gear Solid seemingly KIA and Splinter Cell apparently MIA, there really isn't anybody picking up the charismatic military dude who doesn't play by the rules torch at the moment. And with every passing day that this void goes unfilled, it becomes a better and better opportunity for Gabe Logan to pick it up and run to the edge of the earth with it. That said, it's hard to imagine exactly where this would come from. The original creators of the franchise just wrapped up Days Gone last year, and despite it falling short in a few areas, it did sell well, so they may justifiably be working on a sequel to that. If Syphon Filter were to come from somewhere, odds are it would be from somebody else. Who that would be is tough to say, but no matter how it works, a new game in the series popping up as a launch title would be very interesting despite its obvious unlikelihood. Silent Hill 5. This game isn't even confirmed to exist, but if the theories and rumors are true, we will get Silent Hill 5 one day. Even if it is real, it is probably too early in development to expect it as a launch title, but if it does turn out to be further along than we think, it would do a great job of rounding out that launch lineup with a familiar franchise name and a great horror experience. Given that many of the minds that worked on the original games are now with SIE Japan Studio, Konami and Sony have been in high-profile talks as of late, and Kojima is open for business with Sony as well, the climate is just too perfect for us not to get a Silent Hill game out of this upcoming generation. It might be a reach to want this as a launch title, but there's no denying that it would absolutely rock the gaming landscape if it were announced as a PS5 launch title. Odds are the PS5 will be a bit light on survival horror early on, with Observer System Redux being the only semi-horror game in the launch lineup currently. There's certainly room for more. While I'm not super confident that any of these will be launch titles, nor am I trying to get you to think that they will, they are games that would absolutely aid the PS5 in striking a more definitive contrast with its competition and animate those of us who are still waiting to be impressed with the current launch lineup. Odds are there will be some more launch titles revealed as the PS5 continues to approach, so we here at GamingBolt will definitely keep our eyes peeled for these and others. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed and would like to see more, feel free to hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell to ensure you'll be notified when new videos go up.